Gav, I have to say, I don't think I'm going to miss the Zandvoort circuit, but I'm open to having my mind changed on that. What do you think? Do you think we'll miss that circuit in the years to come, or will it be just a little blip that we?
Do you know what? I don't know if it's because this was the last year that we're at Zandvoort. But looking around it, I was like, this is like a go-kart track. This looks so tired. You know, kind of like an old fairground that's fallen into disrepair. Almost like a haunted fairground, you know, kind of the dinosaur kind of ride is kind of falling over. It just looks so tired and so bleak. And do you know what? I don't know why they've taken it off the calendar. You might know, but it just maybe it doesn't live up to F1's, you know, new shiny reputation, its new global popularity. You know, we've got Lewis Hamilton now dating Kim Kardashian. You know, we've got all these kind of American circuits. You know, it feels like it's all got a bit fancy now. And maybe Zandvoort, and maybe this is sad. Maybe a tired old, you know, track on the North Sea, you know, getting pelted by rain like an abandoned theme park. Maybe it's just not fancy enough anymore.
It has a kind of Boardwalk Empire.
I don't know. I kind of want it to stay now that I've said all that. I kind of want it to stay.
Maybe. So this weekend I was thinking, great, we've got some F1 and some F2. And I looked at the calendar and then I realized there's no F2 because the only thing that came to support the F1 was the Porsche something Cup and the Formula Academy, F1 Academy. So it was like it didn't even have the sort of hint of the cars that were kind of more appropriate to the circuit. You know, the sort of lower powered F2, F3 cars that are really better geared towards a track like this, or a go-kart maybe. Maybe they should bring back the Lego cars that they had a couple of rounds ago. But yeah, it's funny, isn't it? It's got that sort of tired, sandy, windswept vibe, Boardwalk Empire-esque. Last year, I remember we were both quite scathing of its sort of aesthetic, its bleakness at the time. But maybe, you know, what is it they say? You know, absence makes the heart go fonder. And this isn't an absence yet, but there's an absence to come. There's years to come.
I'm going to miss those banked corners to start and finish. Like, there was something very like, I don't know, do you have Scalextrics in Australia?
I think I know what it is. It's like,
you know what Scalextric
cars.
Yeah, like kids build their little kind of in their garage on a billiard table. They build their kind of crazy tracks or whatever, or Hot Wheels. Let's call it Hot Wheels. Those banked corners always felt like slightly comical to me. Like, really, like for an F1 car to go around a really banked corner like that. Just one, it feels really dangerous and fun. Two, it feels a bit silly. I think I'm going to miss those banked corners. Anyway, and nothing ever happens on them, by the way.
That's the other thing. That's such an irony of those corners, is I was thinking the same thing. Oh, amazing. We've got these bank corners. They'll offer different lines. We'll have overtakes and things happening. No. None of that happened. And in fact, last year, if I remember, both Hamilton and Leclerc came unstuck on that third turn, the most banked of all the corners. They both came unstuck. Leclerc had a engine failure and Hamilton crashed. So it's like, okay, nothing happens at these banked corners.
And Ricardo, your favourite, Ricardo, he broke his arm, didn't he?
He broke a metacarpal. Yeah.
Okay, let's not get too specific, Jace. He broke something. He had a sling on. But no, do you know what was interesting about this? I mean, it's a very narrow track. It's like the sprint. I felt like the sprint was just a procession. It felt really boring. And so I just was like, oh, I think the race is going to be really boring as well. And then the race was anything but boring. And not because there was loads of overtakes, but just because of everything that happened. Like, so much happened in that race. I'm just looking back over my like kind of notes that I jotted down through the race. But we started with Max touching a wet line and just very uncharacteristically just going flying in, and a really hard hit, wasn't it? It was pretty brutal.
Horrible.
And absolute carnage from, I think, was it lap 6? Absolute
It was the
carnage.
first lap. The first lap of the race.
Are you serious?
It was lap 1. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was lap 6.
It's
such a blur, this race.
He didn't even finish his first lap.
It was lap 1. But some of the stuff that happened there was like, I don't know if you remember that bit in that moment in Monaco, where there's a kind of a parked car in the tunnel and a driver. Who was the driver who came up behind it?
Hajar.
Hajar. And did
Lightning reflexes.
Lightning reflexes. Well, we had another lightning reflex moment, right? And it was Hülkenberg and Bortoleto. Bortoleto, just a bit behind Max, did this incredible spin. Don't know if I think he caught the wet edge of the track as well. But Bortoleto just goes spinning. But in spinning, he basically creates a smoke screen, didn't he? It was literally a whiteout. And Hülkenberg just saw this happen in front of him. And, he wouldn't have known which way to go, left or right. And the smoke clears for a split second, and he makes this incredible kind of dive left and escapes what would have been the worst T-boning that we've seen in years. It was so scary. So that's how the Grand Prix started, with Max spinning off, Hülkenberg nearly T-boning Bortoleto. It was a spicy start.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was the funny thing about the sprint being so dull is that the rain came down on the last lap. So if the sprint had been delayed by even 1 minute, then that last lap of the sprint race would have been kind of spicy. The opposite happened with the Grand Prix. The rain happened earlier in the day before the Grand Prix started, left a little bit of water on the track, but it had mostly dried by the time that race got started.
Yeah, it looks so dry.
It was mostly dry. Max very uncharacteristically crashes and this chaos ensues. And then there's like a half-hour period where they're cleaning up the debris, they're sorting out the barriers, they're making sure the track is safe to race again. And that time elapsing allows all of the rain to dry. So from that point onward, there's absolutely no wet, dry, strategic decision to be made at all, which is, I think, one of the great benefits that you get at a track like Zandvoort, because the rain can just sweep in off the ocean and catch everyone on everyone's sleeping basically, but it didn't happen, and we have Max to thank for that. Thankfully, he got out of the car straight away. He was fine, no injury. I think he said that because it was a sort of a front impact, just due to the way that he spun off, it was like better. It wasn't as bad as if it had been a sideways impact. But the other thing it reminded me of was at Mugello a couple of years ago, I think it was 2021 or 2022, there was a restart. And because of the way that the pack was set up, like you got to see the onboard footage of this from, say, what's his name? Antonio Giovinazzi, who's at the back. And the back markers thought that the race had been restarted, but the front runners hadn't actually restarted.
Oh my gosh.
And so basically the rear cars just went screaming down the start-finish straight, and it was like absolute carnage. Cars kind of on their side. It was absolutely scary. It reminded me a lot of that. I'm very glad that no one was caught up in that whole chaos except for Max. And and Bortoleto, amazing that he was able to do a 360 spin and carry on with the race. It affected his race, but it could have been a whole lot more. But I don't know, man. When you when you wait up for a race and you got that build up, all that excitement, all the anticipation, and then it all kind of fizzles out in the first lap, and then you think, oh, okay, I guess I'll just sort of sit around and wait for the race to get started.
It's brutal for us because we press play at 11 p.m. at night. And something like that really you think, oh, I'll start at 11, I'll finish at 12:30. That's fine. I can be in bed by 12:30. Something like that happens, you're in bed at 2. Anyway, back to the beginning of the race. So, George, seeing George get pole in the sprint and then convert that into a win in the sprint, we all had high hopes, right? George is back. He's got engaged. We all saw the pictures over the summer break of him proposing to his fiancée. He seemed calm in the press conferences. But I'd leaned over to my partner, to my wife, and said, after he'd kind of won the sprint, I was just like, oh, I just get this feeling. It's just like, it just can't go well for George this year. And of course it didn't. Lando obviously pipped him by, a tenth of a second, for the actual proper race quali. And off the flipping line, Kimi in P3 just comes straight past him.
Wasn't that amazing?
It was amazing. It was amazing, but just like my heart is beginning to... And we're going to get on to what happens at the end of the race with Kimi and George, because this is kind of like,
man.
if the race started with, you know, George's bubble being burst like off the line with this young gun, this, let's just call him their number one driver because that's what he is, just taking him straight away, then it got a lot worse. But we'll get there later. But yeah, some really interesting starts. We saw Kimi get George. I think did we see Piastri get did Piastri get George as well? Who did Piastri get off the line?
So that was at the second start. So the first start, George got mugged by his teammate, and I agree, that was a bit of a Debbie Downer moment for me too. Even though I'm a Kimi fan, I was thinking, I'm worried that we're going to have a bit of a dull Grand Prix at the Zandvoort.
Me too.
After the sprint race, thinking, Kimi's qualified third. It could be a bit of a dull one. And then he mugs George off the line. It's straight away, you know, ahead of him. And so I'm thinking, here we go. Then there's Max crashes and the whole thing gets reset and they have to do another standing start. But then Piastri comes by at the least expected place of the circuit between turn 3 and turn 4, or turn 5, where it sort of goes over the crest of the hill, and completely mugs George as well. So for George, it's just going from sort of good to bad to worse in the space of like 1.5 laps. He's gone from second on the grid to fourth or fifth, you know, behind these two.
Yeah, it comes out fourth. But then let's continue the woes of George. Let's just take this down the woes of George, King George. Then in lap 19, he pits for hards, but gets a 5-second pit stop, like a terribly slow pit stop, and comes out behind Piastri again after he kind of fights his way back past Piastri. Piastri comes out ahead. It was a tough race for him. I just don't know how the poor guy's feeling right now. There's almost like, it feels like everything Kimi touches turns to gold, and everything he touches just kind of evaporates in his hand like a North Sea mist, let's say.
Spectral.
Really tough.
Let's stay with Mercedes. Because I think you called out something that I'd love to talk about, which is this, towards the end of the race, when they've both pitted. Actually, no, George didn't pit. They put Kimi Antonelli on an alternate strategy, and Kimi comes up behind George with the goal of winning the race. So, dear listener, we've skipped ahead a little bit. George is on a different strategy. He's struggling with his tyres, but he's hoping that he can hold on to that second, if not third place. Kimi comes up behind him on fresh rubber, but as he's getting closer, it's not actually looking as easy for him to just pass his teammate. So on the radio come the engineering team and say, we're actually going to invert the positions because Kimi's going to go and chase down Lando Norris. I hated this. I hated this so much. Why did they do this to poor George? Yes, he's the number one driver, Kimi. Yes, he's the World Drivers' Championship leader. But that was like salt in the North Sea air that was rubbing into into his wounds. That was so unnecessary. I hated it. I did not like that one bit. What did you think of?
I'm gonna rewind the story a step. Your poor George in what was George in it though? He was in P3. Your poor he was in P2. Your George in P2. You get a virtual safety car. Is it because someone's crashed? No. Is it because someone's spun off? No. Is it because someone's DNF? No. It's because at lap 55, the stewards decide there's a little bit of debris on the track, so we're going to put out a virtual safety car. Fair enough. It's not my job to decide what's safe or not safe, but that's the first blow to George. Like, he's got a decent kind of bit of pace. He's kind of flying away. Everyone's on a kind of a similar tyre strategy at this point. They leave George out. They bring Kimi in. Kimi gets put on a lovely fresh pair of soft tyres. George is sitting out there on his, I don't know how old his tyres were at that point. I don't know, kind of, 10, 12 laps, kind of tyres, hard tyres that are kind of wearing down.
About 10 laps. That's
about 10, is that right? 10 laps. So you've got, so George can feel Kimi coming up behind him. You can feel him. He knows he's obviously talking to the engineer. Can feel Kimi zooming up behind him. Like, I think at this point it's about 5 seconds behind. And George, in the most pitiful and desperate way, says to his engineer, he says this, I wrote it down. He's like, George says over the radio, I don't know. I was just thinking maybe we can work as a team if Kimi's out of the fight. And like, as an audience, we're sitting there thinking, Kimi is so in the fight. Like, George, like, what are you talking about? He's come out on a fresh pair of softs. There's only 14 laps to go. Kimi is entirely in the fight, and you're saying, just suggesting we work as a team. So you could feel this anxiety, and then they tell him to swap. They tell George to swap with Kimi, and then and then George is confused. George is like, is he fighting for the win? You know, knowing that like Lando is 11 seconds down the road. And he said, and then he eventually does it, and George kind of says over the radio to his engineer, "We've lost a double podium, mate." Because he knows that kind of Lewis is coming up behind him. It was really sad. And I think what it showed, and I think Mercedes made a huge mistake here in terms of George's psychology, is that they were willing to sacrifice George for something that Kimi could never do.
Agreed.
Because Kimi was 11 seconds behind Lando. 11 seconds.
Not only that, he was like 5 seconds behind George.
It was nuts.
It was never going to happen. There's no way in hell he was going to close down 11 seconds in 14 laps, let alone the 5 extra seconds he had to close up on his teammate first. It was so unnecessary for them to make that call.
Can I say one thing that's even worse? They then let Kimi run off down the road and not even keep George within 1 second so he could deploy extra energy.
They didn't work as a team.
They left him to be eaten alive by Lewis Hamilton. So they abandoned him. He was the sacrificial lamb. And I think...
For what?
For what? Nothing.
For nothing.
For nothing.
For 3 points. For 3 points. The promise of a win. Okay, so Kimi, he is... I think I'll go out on a limb and say I think he's a champion. He's going to be a champion this year. And he's got a champion mindset. And that champion mindset always says, I'm going to win this race, no matter what. If you don't have that mindset, you probably won't. So in Kimi's mind, he's thinking, okay, let me get past my teammate and I'll go chase down Lando and I'll catch him and I'll pass him like I couldn't do in the sprint. But the reality of the situation was they were lapping at about the same pace. You know, they weren't on a much bigger delta between them, even though Kimi had fresher rubber. They just were not ever going to actually achieve that gap. And even if they did close up on Lando Norris, who's to say that he could actually get past him? He couldn't even get past his own teammate without team orders. So it was
older, harder tyres.
It was absolutely bonkers, this decision that they made. And I so agree. It was 3 points that they gained, and they essentially tossed their driver to the side for no real benefit.
So I was chatting to Jen, who always has better insights. This is my wife, who always has better insights on stuff like this than I do. And she says, I wonder whether in Mercedes' mind, they remember last year where Lando was only won by 2 points. And they just think, look, Antonelli is our only shot probably this year for a championship. Imagine if someone came roaring back. Imagine if, McLaren or Ferrari came roaring back in the second half of the season. Like, would we rue the day we didn't do this for the sake of a couple of points? So this is what McLaren never did. They never did this stuff. Whereas Mercedes would be like, no, actually, we would rather Kimi have those 3 points. And maybe we've got to respect that. Maybe they're saying, we think we've got a championship winner here, and we want every single point available to him. In which case, can I just say, this is the final thing I'll say, I know I'm rambling. In which case, they need to sit down with George and say, mate, you're number 2 driver officially, and we will be doing more of this throughout the year if we see fit. And if you don't like that, then, might be time to look for another home. Mm-hmm. I think that's what's happened. I think that's what's happened in Mercedes. They have firmly internally decided at the highest level that Kimi is the one to back this year.
I so agree, and I think Jen is, as usual, she's on the money. But I got to point out, Kimi currently has a lead over his teammate of 59 points. Nobody in the history of the sport has overcome a deficit as big as 59 points. And if he hadn't gained those 3 points, it would have been 56 points. Nobody in the history of F1 has ever overcome such a deficit. And George is not not looking likely. And look at Lewis Hamilton. It was so funny. Kimi Antonelli, yeah, he struggled a bit in qualifying. He did really poorly for the sprint quali. And then in the Grand Prix, he qualified third. So that was a bit of a recovery. But his closest rival at the time, Lewis Hamilton, qualified, sixth or seventh? It's just a terrible showing from those around him. So if you're in the Antonelli camp, maybe not Antonelli himself, but if you're in the Antonelli camp, you could probably start feeling a little bit complacent about where you sit relative to the rest of the pack. I'm glad that Kimi doesn't have that because he's got the champion mindset. But man, oh man, 59 points. I mean, like they're just doing laps around the field at this point. It's a little bit egregious, wouldn't you say? But
yeah, we need a couple of DNFs, mate. I've said this for a while.
we had them, and it hasn't stopped him. So I don't know if he's stoppable. But speaking of Hajar and second drivers, I woke up on Thursday to news that Lawson was replacing Hajar, and my first thought was, "What? How could they possibly be doing that?" And then I read further, and it was his wrist. So there you go. There's a bit of a history with Red Bull drivers and kind of hand-wrist injuries getting in the way. But yeah, Lawson stepping in for Hajar, for the injured Hajar. Gotta say, he handled himself pretty well, much better than maybe some people would have been expecting. What do you make of Hajar's replacement, Lawson? What do you think?
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. I mean, this is the kid who should have been haunted by this opportunity, given that Christian Horner gave him exactly 2 races in the kind of the senior Red Bull team before abruptly giving him the flick in the middle of Christian Horner's massive Odyssey style downfall. So I thought, but I feel like Lawson was just like, okay, I've got my big boy pants on now, like I'm not going to fumble this, and he didn't. He qualified P8, just directly behind Max Verstappen. Obviously, Max Verstappen in the race made a mistake and crashed. Liam Lawson came in 7th. Like, that's pretty respectable. I think Liam Lawson finished the race where Max qualified. I think it was awesome.
Yeah, and
I don't even like Liam Lawson at all. At all.
I don't think I knew that. That's interesting. I have to unpack that a bit. I'd have to say that in terms of performance, he was right up there as well. In terms of quali, he was there or thereabouts with Max Verstappen through the sprint, thereabouts the same. He outperformed him in the race because Max was in the wall, so that's not hard. But yeah, in terms of just sort of stepping up and getting the job done, I thought it was super impressive. And then I kind of liked the little narrative threads that were surrounding this, because it was in Zandvoort where Lawson made his debut back in 2023, where Ricciardo broke his meta something bone. And so that was sort of like a nice little, closed loop. He's gone from the sister team up to the big team.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And then it was also a sprint weekend in China, his last race for the Red Bull Racing team before he got demoted in favour of Yuki Tsunoda. So it was sort of like another sprint weekend where this time around it went much better. So that's good. And I think he's also jumped up a bit in the standings. He's 9th. So he's there or thereabouts with Hajar at the moment. Yeah. So, he's kind of, he's pulling along. What did you make of the blisteringly fast, but somehow nowhere Ferrari this weekend? It was like they showed up and then they disappeared, and then they showed up and then they disappeared. Fastest lap, qualifying poorly, then impossible to overtake, and then dropping back, poor strategy. What was the go with Ferrari? Were they just Ferrariing again, or is there something deeper to this? What do you make of it, Gav?
I don't know. I feel like it's been like this all season. I feel like they don't have a bad car. They don't have a Mercedes, but I feel like for the first chunk of the season, they were maybe the second quickest car on the track. You know, as Red Bull fumbled around and McLaren definitely fumbled around.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with Ferrari. Like Lewis, I mean, to be fair, had there not been that one final safety car at the end of the race, Lewis was like, he was absolutely there to be on the podium today and take George. Like, George made a very, very lucky escape, I would say, today. I don't know if you feel the same, but it was like it was one lap away to me for Hamilton on George. So
my memory
I don't
of
know.
that is he was complaining about being left out too long, and I was wondering, were they trying to do a one-stop race with Lewis? Were they trying to experiment with some crazy strategy?
Well, the tyre strategy of this whole race, which suited Lando so beautifully, seemed to be stay out as long as you can and then come back with the fresh delta, come back with the fresh tyres and kind of chase everyone down. So I wonder if that's what they were thinking, leaving with that. But they just kind of got that, I don't know, they just got that a bit wrong. He was on the softs for way too long, Hamilton, I thought. Like, way too long.
Yeah.
Did you notice how people were just swapping hards for hards in this race? How often did you see anyone on a medium apart from the start of the race? It's like no one went. How many people went medium, hard, and back to medium?
No one.
No one.
No one that I can see.
It felt like people were just choosing the soft or the hard. I was like, is there something that the medium's not? It isn't working here for everyone?
Yeah, Lawson's the only one in the top 10 or the top 9 that did most of the race on the medium. But I remember the commentary was saying that he had pretty much a lonely race. Like, Lawson was just out there by himself. So maybe he made it work by circumstance, not by strategy. But yeah, it does seem like the ends of the spectrum, the hard and the soft, were the ones that everyone preferred. And yeah, it's interesting how the soft, it didn't seem to have like a pace advantage at this circuit like you might expect it to have, or maybe at other circuits you might see. The hard was just fine. It was fine for Lando Norris. Antonelli did about half the race on the hards, and George Russell made the hards work, although he made hard work of that. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Like the strategy choices that you see.
Do you have an insight into why Ferrari aren't like turning this pace into some more wins, or like kind of do you feel anything about that? Is there anything that you're seeing? Is it because I don't feel like they're fumbling the strategy as much as they used to. I feel like they're kind of maturing as a team this season.
Yeah, it's hard to say because I think maybe a big differentiator would be their poor qualifying performances. You know, when you start 7th or 8th on the grid, it's just really hard to make up places. At this track, there was really only like a handful of key overtakes in the Grand Prix. It was a pretty difficult circuit to make an overtake happen.
Really difficult. It felt like almost all of them just happened at the end of the the start finish straight to the first corner.
That's why Piastri's overtake was so spectacular going up against Russell. The other one that had me out of my seat was Norris overtaking Antonelli. That was electric. When Norris, I think it was lap 59 or 57 or so.
He did both of them in that one lap.
He did both of them in a single lap. That was
He's
amazing.
good. That's how he ended the championship last year with the double overtake.
Oh man,
he can do it. That boy. I'm sorry, Lando still got it, and I feel like it was really interesting this race because I was reading a little bit and listening to some commentary by people who are far smarter than we are on what actually happened, but it felt like McLaren designed or kind of set their car up in the sprint qualifying to be a great qualifying car, but you know, kind of the setup wasn't great over kind of the long run. So they kind of went home that night after the sprint and kind of actually adjusted, you know, made it a little bit less pointy for qualifying, but like a little bit better for the long run in the race. And it felt like they really fixed the car, didn't it, overnight?
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah,
the car was quick.
In Norris's hands.
Yeah. In Norris's hands. So there's something there, you know, what's happening
between them, because Piastri does not seem this season to be able to extract anywhere near the same level of performance as Norris.
He doesn't.
Which is, in a way, is awesome because he's our champion. right? He's our reigning champion. You kind of expect the champion, the one who's driving with the number one on their car, to be kind of pretty good at doing the driving thing. But it's true. It's like the McLaren, whatever they're doing to change the car seems to be working through the course of these, the mid-season races. They've gotten out of the kinks out of the system from the first 4 or 5 races. And now it's like, okay, they're showing up ready to go. The other thing that was bizarre this weekend was just how many bad pit stops there were.
So many bad
kind
pit
of lost
stops.
count. It was like, what's going on? Is it the rear left tire jack man's just gone to sleep or something?
But on all the teams, it felt like 5-second pit stops were just becoming the norm. It's like, is there some of the sand blowing off the beach and getting into the wheel guns?
It's the salty air.
It's the salty air.
Yeah.
Hey, Alonso in the points. So for those who don't obsessively follow the news, Honda have redesigned the power unit to fit the chassis more, in a more complementary way, and we've gone from Alonso at the very back of the grid to finishing in the points. Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing.
Or maybe that's changing the shape. It could be that he's had some work done on the shape of his head as well, James.
Yeah, the aerodynamics, he's really thought that through. Yeah. I don't know how the air gets through the helmet, but somehow it's working. Whatever they're doing is working.
We want Alonso in for one more year. We need to see what Adrian Newey can do next year now that they've actually made the engine fit into the flipping car and not rattle around so much that it gives people nerve damage. You remember the beginning of the year?
I do.
We were talking about drivers getting nerve damage from the rattling engine. So look, they've got the engine, the power unit to fit into the chassis. Very happy. Well done, Honda. Well done, Aston Martin. Alonso, stay for one more year. We just need enough points for him to sort of think that there's some hope for next year. Yeah. He's currently sitting on 3. I'm not sure that's enough. But I guess the silver lining for this one as well is also he's now 18th in the standings above his old nemesis Esteban Ocon, who is now down in 19th. But yeah, it's funny. The other funny moment from the race was, I don't know if you caught this on the broadcast, but Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon absolutely having some kind of melee racing for last position. You know how you mentioned that there was some carbon fiber on the track towards the end, that was the virtual safety car? That was because coming down the start-finish straight, Alex Albon was attempting an overtake on Carlos Sainz. Carlos goes to the inside to defend, locks up, manages to drive them both off the circuit. They make contact in the process, and they're both dragging. I didn't see any of this.
Dragging carbon fiber around the first 3 corners, and that was the reason why there was the virtual safety car. And then, just to add to the comedy, part of the broadcast featured, because there was a virtual safety car for a period, or a yellow flag, a virtual safety car period where the marshals were going out on track to clear the carbon fiber away.
Yeah.
And at one point, you see the camera focused on a marshal that's over the barrier on the grass, thinking, should I go and get that piece of carbon fiber? Oh, hang on, is that a car coming? And there was a moment where the dude was like, oh God, which way do I go? And he went away from the track because there was a car coming by. It was just like chaos, absolute chaos towards the end. And I don't know what Sainz was thinking, but like the weekend when you announce a contract extension to stay with your team, to then drive your teammate off the circuit defending last place, it's not a good combination. That's not the winning ways that James Vowles is so desperate to return to.
It's tough. Hey, talking about contract extensions, after months of rumours about where Max Verstappen, can't even say his name tonight, Max Verstappen may or may not be going. Is he going to McLaren? Is he going to Mercedes? It sounds like he's had talks with, or his management have had talks with half the grid. He's just signed on till 2030. So we've got Max at Red Bull in principle till 2030. And he's, I saw actually a really, really good little skit. I don't know if you saw it, where he kind of, he was with Laurent, the team principal, and it said, I think, did you see this?
Yeah.
Laurent, the team principal, is sitting there and he's like, hey, Max. And Max is like, hey. And he's like typing like a press release. and he kind of writes, Max resigns. And he's like, is this right, Max? He's like, oh no, you put a hyphen between and yeah. So it went from Max resigns to Max resigns. So I thought that was really fun. I feel like they're having a bit of fun with it. They've had a bit of fun. He's obviously looked around. He's obviously decided that no other team is going to give him the freedom that Red Bull give him to do, kind of Nuremberg and Le Mans and all the other fun races. Also, again, as my really smart wife who works in press said, one of the biggest things Red Bull don't ask of Max is to do any kind of advertising or show up at, you see Lando Norris, for example, show up at crypto conferences because he's got his OKX sponsored. He's got to fly to Singapore to do a crypto conference to talk about Bitcoin and crypto exchanges. Like Max, he just doesn't want to do any of that. He doesn't want to show up to movie premieres. He doesn't want to do little cute videos. He doesn't want to go to crypto conferences. He doesn't want to do anything. And so why would he go to a team like McLaren or Mercedes where the responsibility for him to do all these appearances will be so profound? I thought that was a really good insight.
The other thing he doesn't want to do, on top of that, is probably change his wardrobe. So, if he could just push that down the road a few years, then he won't have to worry about changing his wardrobe. Because he basically just wears Red Bull Racing.
Jeans in a Red Bull shirt. A Red Bull polo and a pair of stonewashed jeans.
I just noticed something. I looked at at his Wikipedia page. So if he finishes racing in 2030, if that's his last year with Red Bull and then he leaves the sport, he will be 33. And 33 is the number that he famously raced under until he became world champion. So there's like a nice little, closing of a loop there. Yeah, look, I think I kind of can't imagine Max in anything but Red Bull. I think it would be really, really weird to see him pop up in some McLaren papaya or even some Mercedes black. I think that would just be too weird.
I feel mixed about it because I wanted to see a team. I wanted to see McLaren or Mercedes put under pressure to get rid of one of their drivers or do a swap, or I kind of wanted that excitement. But I agree with you. I think it's cool. I think there's one thing Max is, and it's really loyal. If he stays till 20, you're a stat man, right? You love a stat. Did you hear the stat about if he stays to 2030, what that will mean?
I didn't. Tell me.
The longest, the only F1 driver. Sorry, I'm trying to think how to phrase this. If Max stays to 2030 with Red Bull, he will have served on an F1 team the longest of anyone ever.
Curious.
So he won't have moved, kind of often, drivers kind of move between teams over years, but if he stays with Red Bull, the longest ever.
Who's the current record holder for that?
Mate, you've got Claude on your laptop, don't you?
I would love to know, because surely he's got to be pretty close to that already. He's been with Red Bull since 2017.
Yeah.
2016 even. He's been there 10 years. I mean, who else could have been at a team for longer? Anyway, I'll get back.
Dear listener, we will bring that up at Monza. We'll come back to that on Monza.
Oh man. Yeah.
Go on.
I was going back to the racing, but we can stick with Max for a little bit longer if you like. I would love to see Max at Le Mans. That would be unreal. That the thought of him having the freedom and the flexibility to go and pursue his other racing interests, it just scratches an itch for me, because, as much as I love F1, and I do, I love it a lot. I love it so much. I started a podcast with you talking about it endlessly. I also love the variety that you get in motorsports. And Max is just an out and out racer. He loves to just go fast in shopping carts and F1 cars. And so if he went to another team, I do think he would lose some of that potentially. And yeah, there's just something about it. He's just got that Red Bull thing. It is a bit of a risk though, don't you think? Because they're not really lighting up the timing sheets. They are when he's sort of pulling one out of the bag. But do you look ahead to the next 3 years and think, oh yeah, Red Bull, they're going to make a bounce back. They'll be fighting at the front of the field again. Do you have that confidence?
All I think is that you just would never have thought that, you never would have presumed that Mercedes would have gone into the terrible no side pod era that they did, where they were just like, it was an awful period for them for like 2.5 years. So it shouldn't be a surprise to us that Red Bull can go from winning 4 championships to kind of going into a bit of a lull. Nor should it be a surprise to us that McLaren can just, after like 14 years, come roaring back and like design the best racing car on the grid. So I guess I just see it as, it's very hard for us to know as kind of punters and viewers what's going on behind the scenes. Like maybe next year, you imagine next year if Williams, for some reason, everything just clicks in their design team and their aero team and their engineering team. Imagine if they just come out and Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz are like fighting for a championship. Like that is kind of what it felt like with McLaren.
You heard it here first. You heard it here first, folks.
So
Williams 2027.
I don't know. I think what I'm saying is like, Red Bull aren't an awful team. They're probably like the fourth best team right now in terms of the machinery. I can see very easily next year them coming back strong. I would like to see them come back strong. I want Max back up the front a little bit, to be honest.
You know, the problem we have here is we want all of them to do well. That's part of the challenge. A few drivers notwithstanding, like it seems you have a bit of a beef with Liam Lawson. I don't know what he did to you in a former life, but they all it'd be great if all of them were succeeding, but they can't all succeed at the same time. That's the great sorting function that we have in F1. And so, yeah, I'd love to see Lando succeed again, but it ain't happening this year, that's for sure. So it's all going to come down to next year, and maybe Adrian Newey will finally come good on that promise that he's not a has-been, and he will have delivered a better car for Aston Martin, and maybe the power unit will do its thing, and Alonso will finally get his long-awaited 3rd championship. Or maybe it'll be Stroll. I mean, if we're really going crazy, thinking Williams can come to the forefront again,
I might have to log off if...
Why not Aston Martin?
Dude, I might have to log off if Lance Stroll starts looking like he's going to win a championship.
Do you know what, man? I had a thought over the weekend. He gets a bit of slack. Like, we all, like, give him a bit of stick for being a rubbish driver. But actually, when you think about it, like, we couldn't do what he does week in, week out. Like, the level that he's able to perform is lower than the other 21 drivers, but they're still the 21 best drivers in the world, and he is actually not that far off his teammate. So, like, I don't know, maybe we should go a bit easy on Lance Stroll. Not saying he's World Drivers' Championship material, but maybe we can just...
Jace, that is not why we have a problem with Lance Stroll.
Okay, I've misread the situation.
You've mentioned everything but the real reason why everyone will always have a problem with Lance Stroll.
His haircut. Damn it, I forgot.
His haircut. No, it's because his dad bought a team to make him the permanent driver, regardless of merit.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, people can't abide with that kind of it's nepotism, the word I'm looking for.
Yep.
People can't abide with that. You've got to earn it, and he'll never have earned it. The only way that Lance Stroll will earn his place in F1 is if another team makes him an offer and he signs an offer with another team. Yeah. So if someone looks at him, another team looks at him and says, "Do you know who I want in my seat? I want that kid Lance Stroll."
And I'm gonna pay a lot of money to get him.
I'm gonna pay a lot. That's the only thing that can redeem his whole story in F1, is that his dad doesn't hire him.
Yeah, and we all know that's never gonna happen.
It's never gonna happen. See, I think you could be honestly, Jace, I've seen you in the sim. I've seen you in a go-kart track. I'm going to say, if your dad was a billionaire, you could have outdriven Lance Stroll. I'm just going to say it to you, mate. I really believe you could have done.
Well,
but we'll never know.
I do know this. I know where my my mirrors located. So I've got that one up on top of him.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, spare a thought for poor Gasly. Did you find it
What happened to
entertaining
Gasly?
or disappointing? So he finished 10th. He finished in the points. So he got there in the end. But I remember there was a moment midway through the race where he was trying to overtake Arvid Lindblad. And in the process,
this is funny.
He got mugged by Hülkenberg and I think someone else as well at the same time. So there he is, like thinking, Tsunoda. He's like, yes, all right, I'm going to take on Lindblad. I've lined him up. I've been chasing him, closing him down. And it just didn't work out for him in a way that really didn't work out for him because he lost 2 places in the process of trying to get that done. But that was like, as far as exciting racing goes, I was really not expecting much at Zandvoort. But that mid-race sort of melee, mid-pack, mid-race, that had me out of my seat. That had me cheering, oh my God, what's going on? And then when you think about the finishing, the 3rd, 4th and 5th, all finished within 2 seconds of each other after 72 laps. So like there was a lot of entertainment on offer last night if you actually stayed up for it, which is very difficult when it's finishing at 1 in the morning. But like, what did you make of the Gasly drama? And then finally he did manage to claw 1 point back at the end.
I just thought, as I was watching it, I remember exactly what you're talking about. Who was in that pack? Do you remember? It was Gasly, Lindblad,
Gasly, Hülkenberg, Tsunoda. Those 4.
Here we go. I've got Hulk, Lindblad, Yuki, Gasly. Yeah, I've got a note because I was like, the midfield fights is kind of what you want F1 to be like.
Yeah.
They're all just like, I'm just like, why is it not like this up the front? And it's like, is it because, okay, hear me out here. Is it because all those kind of midfield cars are kind of super average, but kind of the same? Like, are they the closest, those midfield cars, are they the closest to like kind of a vanilla car that you get? You know, sometimes Jace, you and I fantasize about like, what if everyone was given the same machinery? Who would actually win? Because I still find it galling. I still find it really galling when, you know, Mercedes or McLaren or Ferrari, you know, come out the pits behind a midfield car and they just take them straight away. Like they're not even, the machinery it's just like,
not
go
even
on
bothered.
there. Yeah, like go on then, like off you go, you top 4 team. You know, it feels like one of the most unfair things about everyone. But I think somewhere in this mid pack, it's just like they're just a bit more. It's just a bit more like, I'm gonna have a go. I'm gonna have a dive down the inside of you, mate. Like it is a bit more go-karty, isn't it?
It's
just a bit more fun.
It's more fun, and it's also over like 1 or 2 points, or sometimes no points at all. That's part of the joy of this midfield. And I say, looking at like the race pace for those midfield drivers, they're not that close. When it comes to the performance delta between a Norris and Antonelli is very small. So they are closer in nature than the midfield. The midfield is more like a range, whereas the top of the top, they're separated.
So why do you get more exciting racing in the midfield?
I think
is it once they get on top of each other that they kind of that it gets.
You know, one of the key things that you need in F1 to make it exciting is a difference in speed. And I think that's what you get in the midfield, because the cars, they can come alive on a certain tyre or a certain driver, or they can just be sort of, they underperformed in qualifying, but they came good in the race. So there's this kind of natural difference between the drivers in the midfield that allows for them to have these kinds of tight battles in a way with this era that you didn't have with the DRS train era. If you remember back when, third time this podcast, Daniel Ricciardo, his era, that you'd get into a DRS train and there was just no hope for you whatsoever. You get stuck there. So boring. You're there till the end of the race. So disappointing. But this era does seem like that's not such a feature.
Totally agree.
And you get this kind of, it's like, it's popping in the midfield.
Can I suggest something else? Can I suggest that maybe those midfield drivers have got a lot more to prove and they're willing to like fight a bit harder and get a bit dirty with it? I feel like they're willing to like get a bit dirtier in the way that they fight, just roll up their sleeves and throw a few punches that may or may not stick. Whereas up at the top of the field and the shiny, Ferraris and Mercedes, they get overtaken. They're like so often. Like my biggest complaint with Lewis Hamilton is like once he gets overtaken, he's like, it just feels a bit like he's like, oh, I've been overtaken. I guess that's my race over then. It just feels a bit more fatalistic. Like they're just like, I guess that's me done. Whereas down in the midfield or the lower end of the pack, they're just a bit like, oh, come on then. I'll go. What if I put my car here?
What have I got to lose?
Exactly.
It's good. I love it. It's so true. And especially with someone like, when you think about the characters that are in play, Hülkenberg, Tsunoda, Gasly, Lindblad. Lindblad, it's his first season. He's here to make a difference. He's here to make an impact, right? His teammate got the call up to Red Bull, but he wants to be the one that gets the call up next time. Maybe next round. Maybe they give it another go and it's instead of Lawson, it's Lindblad. We think about Tsunoda. Tsunoda got booted at the end of last season. He's been sitting on the sidelines. He's desperate to make an impact to get back into the sport. Hülkenberg, maybe he's a different character. He's pretty chill these days, it seems, but he's still kind of in it. And then Gasly came off the back of the worst season in Alpine's history. Last season, they scored -5 points with a terrible car. And this season, he's actually got machinery that he can perform with. So they've all got something to gain. And they're willing to just kind of try a different line, have a crack at it. I love it. It seems like this formula of cars is able to reward that kind of chance your arm approach to racing, whereas the earlier seasons that we had just didn't have that at all. You try something,
it's cool, man. I'm with you. The DRS trains are a thing of the past. There's
Thankfully.
a chance to the back end of the cars slide out exactly how, just watching the back end slide out a bit, so exciting. I think when they get this kind of battery petrol engine balance a little bit closer. I think we talked a few podcasts ago about the fact that at the moment it's 50-50. It previously was 70-30. They're going to kind of split the difference and do 60-40. So 60 electrical power, 40% combustion engine. I think that's going to be really fun. Did I say that the wrong way around? I did. 60% combustion engine, 40% electric. I think that's going to be really fun because I think that's almost going to be the sweet spot of just kind of like, because I don't know if you heard Max speak in the summer break, but he was talking about his overtake of Lewis, and he said, "Oh, I don't know if we talked about it, but anyway, he was talking about overtaking Lewis, and the kind of the presenter was like, oh, he's up on some stage somewhere. It's like someone from Formula 1 was like, oh, how did you do that incredible overtake? And Max was like, I pressed the boost button and I went straight past him, like Mario Kart, like, the mushroom. And it was, so I do think we need to find a sweet spot, and I'm hoping the 60-40 is that.
I do so too, but it should be said that was an unusual place to do an overtake at the Red Bull ring. That's what he was talking about. The spot where he did press the button and blitz past Lewis Hamilton, that was an unusual place to do an overtake. So it's not nothing. It's not nothing. Yeah. I realize also they can't get rid of the electrical energy completely, which is what I had advocated for, because if they do that, they won't be able to turn on the cars. That they need to have at least a little bit of power. So I'd be happy with like a 2% or a 5%, electrical component, just so that they can, how like at the second start of the race, Behrman's car turned off. And he was off on the side. Sometimes they can hit the starter engine thingy in it.
So you're advocating for 2% electrical power, 98% combustion.
Just enough to get the car started again. That's all I want. That's my goal.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say about this race, Jace? Any other fun facts? I think we've done quite a decent bit of coverage on it. It looked like it was going to be boring. It ended up being anything but. Bye-bye, Zandvoort. I don't know. I kind of feel sad about it now. I think after I gave my analogy of it being like a haunted fairground, I'm kind of now feeling affectionate.
Well, maybe you'll just have to go there next time round when the Zandvoort circuit isn't being used for F1 and we can take our go-karts there. Oh,
that'd be so Oh, man. What are they going to use it for? Who knows?
No
Who
idea.
knows?
No idea.
You and me go-karting.
If you're looking forward to banking, though, the next track coming up is at Monza. I would love if they could reinstate the banking at Monza. You know, the like old school. There's an oval section where the banking is literally like crazy steep. Do you know what I'm talking about? They used to race on that.
They used to. Is that the bit? Have they got like an old roller coaster going around the outside of Monza? Is that the same? Am I thinking of the wrong track?
No.
It's a nuts bit, isn't it? There's a bit that you can see when you go past it of the old bit of the track. Yes, I know what you're talking about.
You know when they're coming down to the Ascari chicane? I think that's right. The Ascari chicane. They go underneath a bridge and then they sort of pop back up. That bridge goes underneath the banked section.
Got you.
Yeah, it was like scary as heck, but it'd be amazing to see them reinstate that. And the thing about the Monza circuit is that it actually has like a figure 8 component. So you go around there's like an oval that has banking at either end, and then as you come out of the parabolica, it takes you onto the rest of the circuit, and then you come back and you go back through a figure 8. So it's a pretty amazing circuit. I wish that they'd reinstate it. But I love Monza. It's one of those blisteringly fast circuits we've got coming up next at the Italian Grand Prix. I'm stoked. I can't wait. I love it when they get back to Monza. How do you feel about
well, I was just looking
Autodromo?
I was looking back at our notes from last year, and I had down that 2003 Schumacher it's the shortest race on the calendar. It's so fast. I think Lando clocked in at 271 kilometers an hour down the straight. The start finish straight. The start finish straight on this track. The reason you get these top speeds, it's 1.1 kilometers. The start finish straight. 1.1 kilometers. Just think about that. Think about when you're driving down the motorway or the highway in your home country, what 1.1 kilometers feels like. They're going down that. Anyway, at 270 kilometers an hour. So in 2003, Schumacher set the shortest race record. That went last year because it was beaten down to 73 minutes. So we're going to have a nice short Grand Prix. An hour and 13 minutes.
Wow.
An hour and 13 minutes. So, what do they call it? The House of Speed or the Home of Speed or the
Temple of Speed.
The Temple of Speed. So I'm stoked for it. But I'm stoked for every F1 race.
Well, for Kimi Antonelli, it'll be a home race.
Yes,
and
it will.
A home race with the current World Drivers' Championship leader. And he will have just turned 20 by the time this rolls around. And yeah, I think that kind of home hero coming back, being in front of your home ground, and just kind of the experience of going around that circuit at such speed. I mean, it's got to be pretty bucket list kind of material for any F1 driver, let alone an Italian who's currently kind of at the top of his game.
Absolutely. One final thing I want to talk about, and I just looked at the stats and just realised this. George Russell and Lewis Hamilton are equal on points.
Yes.
You see that?
Yes.
So Georgie clawed back a few. It's probably not going to change the outcome of this year. But yeah, they're sitting there at 183 each.
Bragging rights. Bragging rights is what it'll do. And they're yo-yoing around. They're at the same points, but I think because George, he's won a race. Oh no, they both won races. I don't know why he's on top. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Oh, because he won a sprint. He won a sprint.
So Grand Prix plus.
Yesterday, he won a sprint yesterday. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. That's interesting. I mean, that will be a real. If he can at least finish P2, then he can just say I had a really tough year, loads of technical problems. He can kind of make a narrative about it. If Lewis beats him and he comes third, that's going to be harder to spin that narrative.
Mm-hmm. Just like
I need Sir Lewis to come second this year. I think that's what I need.
Don't you want him to come first?
Well, yeah, I would love him to come first, but like I don't think it's happening.
3 DNFs. 3 DNFs.
3 DNFs.
Yeah, let's just tally them up.
But I just want, Lewis had such an horrific year last year. Just as he leaves, Mercedes to go to Ferrari, has a terrible year at Ferrari, beaten by his teammate. At the same time, Mercedes is beginning to look really quick. Everyone's like, you made the biggest mistake. But like, can we just take a moment to remember that Lewis is flipping. He is not finished.
No.
Up until today, he was P2 in the driving championship. He is not done, and he does not have the quickest car. So I don't know, man. I want to see Lewis finish second this year. all by some miracle first. I still believe.
It's the faith that kills you.
What, do you not think he can finish second? Do you think he can beat George?
No, I think he can. I look forward to seeing it. It's his year to come second.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, we'll see you at Monza, the temple of, not the house of speed, not the bedsit of speed, not the hotel of speed, but the temple of speed.
The temple of speed. Bring it on. All right. See you, mate.
See you there. Bye.